So we are back. This is part 4 of our series. We're going to be doing a few more things with this. We're not going to be generating the HTML. That won't be the final step. Let me put it that way. There's still some things we need to do. Some things that I want to do to extend this a little further. So let's get to it. So we are now able to create a barcode on the fly. We can save them. Everything is great and wonderful, except for, I don't really like them being saved right here. So what we're going to do is we're going to make a new function real quick called, let's see, create a cache directory. And this is not going to take any arguments at all. We're not going to need them. And what we're going to do now is we're going to simply say a try. And we're going to say os dot make directory and the path. And the path in this case is going to be a little complicated because I want to make sure that this path is exactly where we want to save. So we're going to I promise I'm getting my thoughts together. So we're going to say our path equals, and we're going to be doing some more things with the OS module. So we're going to say os dot path dot join. Okay, and what this is basically, due to the way that Linux and Windows use the differences in the flip-flops here of which way the slash is moving, we're going to let the operating system generate which way the path goes. So this is going to build the path for us, and all we need to do is simply supply the actual path itself. So we're going to simply say cache, right? But like we could say cache, and then you could, for instance, you could say stuff and things, and it would actually build cache stuff things. Or on Windows it'd be the other way around. But we're not actually going to be typing this exactly, so just follow me for a second, and then you can type it in a moment. So we're also going to want to get the absolute path here to save for later. So we're going to leave this function the way it is for right now, and we're going to have a new variable that is going to be a global variable. Global meaning that it's available to everything. It's outside of a function. Okay, I'm introducing the idea of global variables versus things that are not global. For instance, the inside the function here, base URL is only available inside this function. A global variable, on the other hand, is available to everything. So we're going to go ahead and say root path equals os path dot cur directory. Okay, and what this is going to return is our current directory. Okay, so we're just going to print our root path here, and let's really quickly let's just get rid of this for right now. Okay, so this is going to simply print it out, python main.py, right? And you see right here we have this dot, right? And this is one of the it's a bit of a shortcoming of Python in general. So whenever you, in case you whenever you say ls, right, you'll see here dot and dot dot. Okay, this first dot means the current directory, and dot dot, of course, means the parent. Which is why if you ever type in cd dot dot, you go up one directory, or if you go cd dot, you stay where you're at. So when Python runs, it literally just says dot. Okay, this is not very helpful for us. So instead, we're going to say copy this. Okay, just copy it, or cut it. os dot path dot absolute path, and then we're going to say the current directory. Okay, so if we do this and tell it to run again, now we're going to see we have the absolute path. This is the full path, which is what we want. Okay, so this root directory here is kind of a placeholder. We're just basically saying, hey, I need to know where the current path is. Okay, it's always a good idea whenever possible to use your absolute paths. Okay, and so by us generating this path on program execution, we are saving what this absolute path is to be used throughout our entire application the whole time. So now we can come back up here, and of course I was an idiot and deleted it. So we'll say, let's say, create cache directory. And now we'll say the path, right? Actually, let's not do that. I'm gonna show you all how to do this. So global, okay, and then root path, okay. By doing that, we are basically pulling in this root path from the global space, which is here, okay. Now we can simply say try os.make directory, okay. But first we need to tell it what directory we want. So we want to say cache directory equals os.path.join, okay, and now here's where it gets fun. Root path and then cache. And so what that cache directory now will be is we're going to put it down here. Okay, so we're going to make that directory and then accept pass. Okay, so what we're going to do, we don't need to return anything here. We're saying, I want you to create this directory. Now, why did we do the accept and pass and not care? Well, the thing is that if this path does already exist, as in we already ran it once, when you run make path or make directory again, it's going to say that the path is already there. So let's see. I think it'll tell you file exists error. Okay, so we could leave it like this. This is a more correct way of doing it by simply saying except if the exception of path file exists error, basically saying the path already exists, we're just going to ignore it. Okay, and that's fine. We're going to leave that there. We'll do some more troubleshooting later, or not troubleshooting, but more just better programming up there. But for right now, that works. It's quick and dirty. It's what we need. So we're going to create that path, okay? And here we're going to go ahead and say create a cache directory, okay? And we're just going to say create the cache directory right there. Now, when we do this file name down here, right, we now need to add to this because we want these files inside that cache directory. So what we're going to do is we're going to say, let's add a space up here, and we're going to just copy this. You know what? Since it's going to be used in multiple places, let's just pull it out. Just Control X, okay, and let's paste it down here, okay. And now both the root directory, the root path, and the cache path are already defined at the root level. So what we'll do is we'll come up here and we'll simply say global cache directory. Get rid of that. There we go. So the cache directory down here is used throughout the whole program because we're going to be using it in this spot here. I'm sorry, I'm trying not to go too fast with the scrolling. So here we're going to add on to this file name, and we're going to say our cache directory, right? Trying to think of how to do this quickly. Yes, so let's just say file name equals, and in this case we're going to say os.path.join again, okay, and this is going to be that cache directory, right? And then we're also going to add in the file name, and let's change this to say full path, okay, and move it down so that it's defined. So we're going to define what this file name is, okay, and then we're going to join together the cache directory and the file name to create the full path of where we save that file. So these files we're going to go ahead and delete because they shouldn't be needed anymore. Delete those. And now when we run this program, we should see that cache directory get created, okay, and these files should go into that cache directory. So let's see if it works or if I have a bug. And there we go. There's our cache directory, and look, we do have a bug. So that did not work the way we want. Oh, you know why? Because we didn't tell it to use the full path. We're going to copy this full path here and change that to full path. So now we can delete these files, okay, because we were still using the old file name, which is here, not this new full path variable. So we're going to run it again and refresh, and look, there is our cache right there, ready to go. Pretty cool. Now we're going to be able to do a little bit more with this. What we're going to do in this get barcode is we're going to implement this cache, right? Because if this cache already has the number, we don't need to generate it again. There's no point. So what we're going to do here is we're going to say, let's change this all good to something a little better, right? Let's say generated barcode. Successfully generated barcode. Okay. Now what we're going to do here is we're going to look to see, let's see, so we get the barcode here. Let's look to see if we have a file that exists. Okay, so we're going to make there's a couple ways we could do this. We can make a function, which is probably the better way to do it. So let's do it the function way. And let's say define check cache, right? And all we're going to need to check the cache is the district ID, which is the same as up here. Okay, string, right? And what we're going to do here is we're going to grab that global of cache directory, okay, and we're going to say if, well, actually, let's copy and paste some code. So let's come down here and let's grab this file name, okay, and you know what? I'm also going to teach you, or help you a little bit with this. So this file name, because we know this is being used now more than once in our program, because we're going to need it up here, we're going to make another function. So let's hold off on that function for now. Let's do up here, and let's say generate file name. Okay, and again, we need that district ID, right? And that's going to be a string. Global of the cache directory again. All right, and we're going to grab this full path, right, and this file name here. We're going to grab both of these. We're going to cut those out. Okay, we're going to paste them up here. All right, and now we're going to return the full path. Now, technically, you could just replace full path here with return and just simply say return there and get rid of this, and that's totally fine. So now we're going to return what this file name is. So that was pretty easy peasy, right? But our our ID here, we need to change to say district ID, right? So now this is a quick short function, and you're probably saying, well, why would we need that? Okay, it just seems like it's useless code, and I'll explain. So generating the file name up here, we're going to down here say our full path equals generate file name and our ID. And the reasoning behind this being a function is that if we ever change that cache directory, right, or if we ever change these IDs, or change the way that the file name is structured in any way, shape, or form, we only have to do it in this one spot. And that way, if we come here and we say file or path, let's say, yeah, file to check equals generate that district ID. Now we know for a fact this will always pull the same file name as down here. And this way, if we ever decide to change our file name structure for whatever reason, it's always going to be the same in both places. This is why you want to break apart your code as much as possible into functions. Because if you have copy and pasted, like I originally wanted to, what would happen is I would have to then change it in two places. Right? So this is a good way for you to visualize and see why functions are very nice, because like in this case they're repeatable, right? So because they're repeatable and they generate the same thing every time, you can call them constantly. This is why a lot of programs you don't see a lot of procedural stuff like this. You see a ton of this type stuff where you say call a function after a function after a function. And the reason that people do that is over time programmers have learned to try to make everything into a function. So now we've created our cache directory, right? We are now saving to that cache directory. Now let's utilize our cache. So we're going to say file to check right here, and we're going to say file exist equals, okay, os.path.isFile, okay, and then the file to check, okay, and then we're going to say if file exists, okay, return. Actually, you know what? We'll just do this. We don't even need to do that. Let's just say return that. Okay? Easy peasy. So all we're doing is simply saying, hey, tell us if this file exists or not. All right? Very short, easy program. Well, not program, routine function, right? So we're going to check the cache. Okay? And now we're going to down here, we're going to say if check cache. Right? So this is going to return true or false. So if not check cache, okay? This is a little weird. I know it sounds weird, but basically if not is the same way as saying if check cache equals false. There is no difference between the two. They are the identical things. However, it is more Pythonic, again that famous word there, to not do it this way, but to do it if not check cache. So basically we're saying if we don't have the file cached, okay, if we haven't gotten this file before, then we're going to generate the barcode, right? We're going to get the file name, and then we're going to save the file, okay? That actually is probably a little bit out of order. Let's do it like this and say we're going to generate the file name, get the barcode, and then save the barcode, okay? But if we already have it in cache, why do we need to do that? We won't need to do that. So we're going to, because the barcode's not going to change, it's just a number. So we're going to leave it the way it is. And because we saved the files as the ID number, we know for a fact that the numbers are always going to match what the file name is. So now we have a cache system in place, ready to go. So we don't waste bandwidth and we don't waste time, which is awesome. So now we're going to, now that we've got the whole checking of the cache thing, we've learned how to create directories on the fly, right? We know how to save the file. And you notice I'm not commenting these. I think they're kind of self-explanatory. Like, open file, really and truly, I don't need to have this. So, that's okay. Get barcode, that's something that, again, I try to make my functions and my variables both easy to read, easy to understand what they do. In theory, you could have that save file just be SF, but then no one knows what SF means except you. So, try to make things to where they're easy to be read and understood by everyone, including yourself, because in 6 months you will forget how this code works. I promise you, it's going to happen, especially if you program a lot. I will tell you a funny story toward the end of the video to explain that. So now we have created the cache directory. We're utilizing the cache directory. Now it's time for us to, we kind of have a couple ways of doing this. We eventually I want to pull the student data file from Google itself, but I think that's going to be a next video thing. Let's generate our HTML file, okay? And for that, we need to kind of see what the client scoped. And so for that, I'm going to pause the video so that I can kind of give you an idea of how ideas for stuff like this work. Okay, so I'm going to pause the video and we're going to go full screen on the thing here. Wow, there's a lot of rain outside. Anyway, sorry, that was a squirrel moment. I'll be right back. So we're back again, and I've just realized a few things. One, I realized a huge problem with our program that we need to fix. If you've realized it before now, kudos. If you haven't, that's okay. I didn't either until just now. So we got to fix a thing. First off, we have 3 barcodes, but if you look at our student data, we have 4 students. Does anyone know why? And that's because we switched from just reading the file flat to actually using the CSV module, which takes into account that we already have a header. So that open file, we're going to open into that, and this whole row counter thing, we can get rid of it now because it already knows that we have a header. So by doing that, now we will, when we run this again, we'll have the correct number of files. So let's just verify that real quick by running it again. And oh, we didn't. I didn't tell it the ID, did I? Yeah, that would be helpful. So you got to tell it the ID. Whoopsie. So now we run it again, and now it'll be fine. And so it generated 1 barcode, which was the first one up here, right? Because our student data is 1, 2, 3, 4, and now over here we have 1, 2, 3, 4 as we should. And it did skip the header because a CSV, I promise I'm awake. I'm just very tired. This dict reader here already knows about the header file, the header row. So, and it knows that because it uses it for creation of the keys in the dictionary. So, anyway, now we have fixed that little bug, and actually we're getting all we should. Everything's great and wonderful. Now, let me talk a little bit about how this thing got scoped out, because I'm very much doing this on the fly. So, literally, it was a text message from my wife that says, "Hey, I sent you a Google Sheet. I need 8 cards to a page." She gave me the link above. Can you make it like the book bag tags, which is another thing I did. And she's like, online, 120 barcode, blah blah blah. So this is what she wants. So this has got to pull from a Google Sheet. So those of you who don't have a Google account, you can skip this. Or if you do have a Google account, go ahead and go to sheets.google.com and create a new sheet. Call it whatever you want. I'm going to close this out, and I'm going to bring over my web browser. And basically this is the exact same thing that we started with. Okay. Um, Although I realize this is actually supposed to be Snodgrass. Um, there's a funny story behind that. We'll get into it later, I think. My wife went to school with someone whose last name was Snodgrass. It was kind of funny. So anyway, we're going to create this here, okay? And you do need to create this. We're going to come back and use this later. We're running short on time because, like I said, I'm trying to keep these videos 30 minutes apiece. But just create a file just like this in Google, and you're going to want to share it, okay? And you're going to share it to where anyone with the link can get it, okay? And you're going to want to copy that link. And I'm just going to make a quick notepad and throw it in that notepad and put it off to the side for now because I have multiple monitors. If you go ahead and save that file if you can, and we're going to be using that link later when we download this from Google. Because we want them to be able to put students in here in an easy-to-use format, run our program, and it automatically generate everything for them. And so this is kind of like how we tie some things together, because we're using an API, we're using another Google API now, and you can see where Python is very adept at doing these things. This is the reason that Python is used for a lot of scripting in general, is that Python is just amazing at this type of stuff. It's great for automation. So you can actually use things like Selenium and stuff like that to actually do functional testing on web browsers and whatnot. So I will check you guys back after the next video, or after the end of this video. Real quick funny story, which I had a funny story I was going to tell. It was a bit of a rant. But it's gone now, so maybe I'll remember it later. Anyway, thanks for watching. Hit that like and subscribe, and share this with your friends. Thanks.